It actually is 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order by doing our Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody's ready? I
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, EJ will sing the national anthem for us. Oh,
Not
did
this
you not catch that memo?
Not in this lifetime.
But if we had a piano here.
I would play it for you.
All right, maybe next time. So welcome everybody to this, the first City Council meeting of Yelm in our new digs with the new furniture crafted by local business woman Katie Wilcox. And we're still getting used to it. We have some new things to be aware of. This roundish black thing hanging from the ceiling is a multi-directional camera system. We have an IT person behind the scenes who will be changing the direction of the camera based on who's speaking. Hi, Aaron. Who is Andrew? It's Andrew tonight. So he's the man behind the curtain. You should consider yourself to be on camera at all times because unless you have the split screen up yourself, watching it on the YouTube channel, which you can link to on the City of Yelm's webpage, or just go to YouTube and search for City of Yelm City Council meeting. Yes, Jane?
Could we move that a little bit on the side if it can go everywhere so us can see everybody too?
We could move that around a little bit. It has...
The camera is not switching around, it's windowed.
So no, not
no.
tonight, because we have the
chair.
cameras aligned.
So
Well, you could move.
Oh, we can? Okay.
You don't have assigned seating. So the camera will be able to look at council, me, people speaking at the podium, but isn't necessarily trained on the audience. However, the multi-directional or omnidirectional microphone picks up everybody's voice at all times. This is really important to know because even though you may be going like this to your neighbor, it's going to be very sensitive, and we'll find out from the recording just how sensitive when we hear the quietly harumphed comments later on. But just wanted you to be aware of all that. Any questions, concerns? Yes, Molly?
The study session apparently wasn't recorded last time. We were in here, and I got some notifications that people weren't able to see or hear the study session.
It may not have been, it wasn't live streamed, but it should be archived, and
Okay.
so he can give you the links to make sure that it gets.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And we'll have coasters next time.
Maybe not next time.
I'll make them. Have to order them. We might expect people to be coming in late because we changed the location. This will be the permanent location of City Council meetings. I think we should applaud as each new person comes in, make them feel comfortable. Welcome. Nothing embarrassing about that at all. Okay, so we'll have the call the meeting to order. Let's take the roll call, please.
Council members E.J. Curry.
Present.
Molly Carmody. Here. Cody Colt.
Here.
Ted Stillwell.
Here.
Tracy Wood.
Here.
Joe DePinto.
Here.
Terry Kaminsky.
Here.
Mayor J.W. Foster.
Here. Very good. Do we have an approval of tonight's agenda?
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. I love your posture, Councilmember Wood. Band of light. We have no special presentations today. There we go. Welcome. I do have two very important proclamations to read. Bear with me, they're also in your packets. The first is National Voter Registration Day, which is today. So, whereas registering to vote empowers eligible citizens to exercise their right to vote on Election Day, and whereas the City of Yelm is committed to strengthening democracy by encouraging voter registration and increasing participation in all elections, and whereas civic-minded people and organizations have collaborated to establish September 24th, 2019 as National Voter Registration Day, and whereas the goal for the 2019 National Voter Registration Day is to create awareness of elections and motivate eligible citizens to vote in coming months, and whereas the strength of our democracy depends on the willingness of our citizens to participate by choosing the people who will lead us and by voicing their opinions on important matters that will come before the voters on Election Day. Now therefore be it resolved that the Yelm City Council hereby recognizes September 24th, 2019 as National Voter Registration Day in Yelm and everywhere else, and encourages all eligible city residents to register to vote. Hope everybody takes heed of that. The second proclamation is one that we've done 2 years in a row now. There's a Washington woman whose child was affected by pediatric cancer, and she has taken it upon herself to spread the word of this important mission to eradicate this disease. And so in honor of that effort, we read this proclamation. Whereas pediatric cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children, and whereas 1 in 285 children in the United States will be diagnosed by their 20th birthday, and whereas 80% of childhood cancer cases are diagnosed only after the disease has metastasized and spread to other areas of the body, and whereas the causes of childhood cancer are largely unknown, and more studies are needed to understand which treatments work best for children, and whereas in the last 20 years, only 4 new drugs have been developed specifically to treat children with cancer. And whereas Yelm is a community that cares about its children and their families, now therefore I, Mayor J.W. Foster, do hereby proclaim September 2019 to be Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Yelm. And I encourage all residents to learn more about childhood cancers and what we can do to support research and development of prevention and treatment, and support the children with cancer and their families. And so we shall. While I read those proclamations, my screen went blank. Remembered my password just in time. We now have the part of our meeting where we go to public comment for those who are new to the process. If there's an item on the agenda that you'd like to address council on, you would wait till that time. If you have another thing that you'd like to address the council on, you'd fill out a blue card, and then you could address the council for 3 minutes on that subject. Do we have any blue cards brought in? Anybody else wanting to speak tonight on something not on the agenda? Everett?
Oh, my mom.
Would you like to speak?
Yes.
Okay, we didn't fill out a blue card?
No, I didn't.
I think we'll give you a pass this time.
Okay.
If you'd come on up there and tell us who you are and what you'd like to address the council, and we'll try to keep it to 3 minutes if we could.
Hello, I'm Jessica Smith, Mayor and council members. I live at 306 Solberg, and you may have seen me here before, but I don't show up too often. But I have a point of contention with this tree. As you can see, it's an old poplar, and I can even pass my phone around. And if you look down, you can see there's a broken branch right in the middle of the tree. Anyway, last time we had a nice big windstorm. I went out in my bathrobe and my sleepy slippers, went out into the street and pulled the dead branch off the road. At least I tried to. And in the meantime, there's a lot of traffic on that street. So a lady in her car came up to the branch and said, "I need to get home." And my hands were on the branch. And I was ready to yank it off the road, and she hauled off and went over it. So it shattered in 5 different places, but I didn't get injured. But the point is, it's kind of dangerous to remove the branches during the windstorms. And there are a lot of children. I have even a picture of like 4 or 5 tots out in the backyard of the apartment buildings playing. And if a southwest wind, is what we often have here, blows, it may blow right on the kids. But there's like 4 or 5 huge dead branches. And when they fall, they're going to fall either on the road or where the kids' playground is. And I live across the street. I don't really have a right to be there, I don't think. So I've called up Chad before and left him messages. I've asked to be called back, and that hasn't happened. I'm not too happy about that. But I would like that tree removed, and as you can see, there's already a broken branch that has been captured by the lower branches. So this tree has a habit of breaking and branches falling. So that's all I have to say, and I hope someone can get back to me and let me know that they are going to get rid of that tree. There are a lot of young people coming and going from school, crossing right by that tree. It just isn't fair. Thank
I have some
you.
really good news for you, Jessica.
You're going to get that tree?
So it was brought to my attention by Mr. Bedlington that this was an ongoing
Yay.
complaint. And I thought you were going to call me today. That's what the message that I got. And I was going to tell you.
Well, I
that
was
it's
going
on
to
our-
call you. I've been nagging him.
Yeah. Well, I nagged for you.
Thank you.
And we have that on our work list. That tree is coming down.
Yay,
Take
I'm
care of it.
glad to hear it. Thank you very much.
There is an interesting balance that we have to strike with street trees, because many times in the developments, the street trees are put in and then have to be taken care of by the developments, the homeowners associations, the property owners adjacent to it. And then some are truly trees that are placed by the along Yelm Avenue, for example. That would be our responsibility. But when it becomes a public nuisance like this one clearly has, then we take that. That tree is so old, the original owner probably isn't even around who planted it. So that tree's lived its useful life as a poplar, and it's coming down.
Thank you very
Thank you for taking the time to come in and talk to us
I'm
about it.
glad you listened to me. That's very nice.
You did a good job. I have a note from the audience, the streaming live audience, that there's no audio being sent out. Is that something that we
Check with
can do?
Mr. Andrew.
Any other people who want to address the council? We will move on to the consent agenda then, which includes the September minutes and the voucher approval.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And I will pass this down for signature. Very good. So now we move on to new business, ordinance 1054 annexation petition, and person who was going to present on that just left the building. So, Andrew, if you're listening, could you send Grant back in? While he's working on that, maybe we could skip to the next one. So we'll just jump out of order just a little bit, and we'll go on to the professional services agreement with FCS Group, which Chad Bedlington will present on.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor Foster. So before you tonight, I'm requesting Council to authorize Mayor Foster to enter into an agreement with the FCS Group for a water and sewer rate forecasting analysis for a not-to-exceed amount of $29,690. To give a little bit of background to Council, this is a follow-through on a commitment that we made when the council was willing to adopt rate increases that took effect January of 2018 by ordinances 1035 and 1036. Those rate increases are scheduled to continue till December of 2020. And starting in January of 2021, those rates will be adjusted only by the Consumer Price Index for the Seattle-Tacoma Bellevue area. So at the time those rate increases were made, we were adopting a 2006 facilities plan, which outlined the capital improvement plan and operating plans for the water reclaim facility. At that time, we were looking at rate increases of roughly between 8.5% and 9.25% a year for up to 8 years in order to support that capital improvement plan. At that time, Council was not at that time interested in moving forward with that fully extensive rate proposal, so we came back with a 3-year plan with the anticipation that around year 2, which is about what we're approaching at the end of this year, we would come back forward with some additional forecasting as we went through, revised our CIP, our capital improvement plan for the WRF. That work is still underway. Right now, what we're looking at doing is playing a little bit of catch up. The goal being that we do not want to bring a capital plan to council that can't be supported through rate revenue or other sources, that being either other grant opportunities. So we want to get the vetted back in 2016-17, that plan was adopted. In order to do that, we have to go back to the Department of Policy for an amendment to that facilities plan. As we do that, we will need to look at our rate structure and forecasting to make sure it can support a revised capital improvement plan. This is a piece of that larger puzzle. So that's kind of where we're at. FCS Group's budget for this project includes several meetings with council, should it be necessary, additional meetings with staff should it be necessary. So I don't anticipate that we would spend this entire amount on this forecasting effort. But I do anticipate at least 1 or 2 meetings or opportunities for some study sessions with council to look at what those forecasts look like going forward. This would be inclusive of both the water and sewer utility. It would also address the system development charges, the sewer utility, which were reviewed back in 2016, but those rates were not adopted. But as we look at different technologies potentially for the water reclaim facility, we'll be looking at what our treatment capacity will be going into the future. Our hopes is to design future capacity into that. That should be paid for through development costs, not necessarily through existing ratepayers. So that's the yin and yang effort that we're working on. This is really the large financial component that will go along with that package, probably within the next 6 months to the Department of Ecology for that. So I'd be happy to take any Councilmember Carmody.
Yeah, so you're saying that the design plan that we had in 2016 is now outdated?
Well, we didn't design it. What we did is we studied process alternatives. So what different methods do we need to process to target what are the issues within our effluent? Nitrate's a problem with our effluent, pH is an issue with our effluent, turbidity, clarity of the water is an issue. Each utility deals with different effluent issues. Our step system is very septic by the time it gets to the plant, so we don't have a lot of solids handling. We have to handle that differently. That's where we pump and we haul and we do a lot of those things now, and it's a very expensive process. That all goes into a facilities plan and how are you going to address that for the next 10 to 20 years. So we did study those options, and what that came back with, which is more of your, for a capital improvement plan, it's like a feasibility level that these are projected costs and these are alternatives, and we evaluate and score those alternatives to find what we thought was the best solution in 2006.
My follow-up question is, I understood that Johnson Controls came in and sort of helped to redesign the water reclamation facility using a different technology, the membrane technology. Why are we not going with that design?
We are still moving forward. That's where the amendment to our facilities plan is coming in.
Is that stage 2? Stage 3?
Stage 1.1, we'll just say that. The sub-consultant, Kennedy Jenks, who was working with Johnson Controls, is still moving forward with us in that process right now. So the only difference now is without the energy efficiency elements right now being beneficial to the WRF or to the rates or to our rate customers, we've gone back to more of a traditional means of evaluating for design options for the MBR. And the same consultant that started this process a year plus ago with Johnson Controls is the same consultant today.
The rates that were passed previously and the latest rates that were increased, were those paid for were paid to the emergency needs of renovations for the facility?
That's an excellent question. Yes, so the immediate phase 1 project was completed roughly 2-3 months ago. We just finished our wrap-up, our closeout about a month and a half ago. I'm actually going to come back to council at the study session on the 1st and walk you through an entire timeline of where we've gotten through since that time, since the rate increases took effect. I want to show you what we've been spending money on and at what time frames, and then also I'm going to walk you out about a year and show you what we're moving towards in the next phase.
Great, and then part of that presentation, are you going to tell us the total cost and how much, because I'm curious about when we pass that, the rates, they're not going down. They're staying at that level forever, correct? Unless the councilmatic action to change that?
They will adjust slightly with the consumer price index starting in 2021.
Would that possibly go down?
It is possible,
Has it ever gone down?
not in recent memory.
Okay. So likely for an increase again, unless there's councilmatic action to raise it higher or lower it. That project cost, let's say, just throwing out, I don't remember the exact cost of the project, but if it was $10 million, once those rates paid for $10 million, could we use those rates to pay for future projects? Or what would that money go towards?
Well, I think that's where this forecasting comes in, because it takes into account our debt load management, how we're paying our debt, our operational costs ongoing, and what are our future capital improvement costs. So those three most significant factors, including salary, payroll, labor, which goes into the O&M costs, all factor into how are you going to support the utility. It's just like any other business. We have to balance our books. So whatever we're bringing in, either through rate revenue, grants, loans, other means, maybe funding, relief from the state, something like that. They're all taken into account in the financial forecast. So we have to balance our books. And so that's really where FCS has done some really good work for us in the past. And we've got a lot of our groundwork done. So now it's more of just updating some of the assumptions we're making right now.
Thank you, Chad.
So from what I understand, this, what you're asking for us today is money to pay essentially accountants or financial advisors on, how to project out the expense of this thing and how to collect for that. But I'm wondering, how can we do that if we don't even know what the final project is going to cost because we're redesigning it?
That's where I'll brief you on the first, because these aren't going to lag. One's not going to jump out in front of the other. I'm just getting this piece in place so when we get to that point where we're confident that this is the CIP that we want to propose and this is the cash flow we anticipate over 10 years. Right now, we're trying to smooth out how this project takes form so we're not hitting these big spikes where we need to find loans or grant opportunities and take on debt load. We're trying to look at different ways to plan this project as well. I'm not expecting dramatic change, so I'm not going to get back to you and go, hey, guess what? I just saved 50% of the $38 million in CIP. That's not a reality that I can bring. But if I can find 10 or 15% and say we're planning this differently to span 6 years instead of 2 or 3 to get these elements done, that's kind of our focus. There's a few moving pieces, but this part will catch up, and I'll be able to give you a better timeline of how that interacts first. That's my goal. I'm still on.
The original, I call it a survey, but the original data that we collected, that was a multi-year document that we chose to only use 2 years. Isn't the data, the information in there for the rates, suggested rates, isn't that valid still today, even though, because it was only 18 months ago?
A lot of that is still valid. I've done a little bit of cursory pro bono discussions with FCS group to kind of get an indicator of, hey, if our CIP looks like this, can you just give me a snapshot of what the impact will look like? They've done that, and it doesn't look real good. So we're still working on, okay, well, let's just do a full rate review is a lot more expensive than this. You'd be almost double this price. This forecasting is taking like that foundation that we've built, the models we've built already, financial models that they run for us, and use the same data. We're just updating it to the most current data we have available. So we'll take what our cash balances are at the 2018 and not at the end of 2015 now, and look at what that forecasting looks like, because we're a little bit better now as we waited 18 months to start getting into multi-million-dollar second phase. So our cash balances look better. So I want to be able to show that, because I think it is going to change how those rates were forecasted 3 years ago if we look at it now going forward for another 5 years, if that answers you.
And one follow-on, would it make more sense to adopt this or not adopt it after you give us the information at the study session? Would that make more, it would make more sense to me. If you're gonna give us...
I'm really in no hurry, I'll be
Yeah.
honest. I've got 6 different moving parts to this. So if it was the council's desire to table this for a second reading or something at the next council session, I think I'm completely, I have no issues with that at all. If you want to wait for that briefing on the first, I'm welcome to that option. If Foster.
I asked the same question earlier today, and there's really no hurry on it, but as Chad explained just a minute ago, he's just trying to put all of his parts together. This is the easy one to put out because he does have the information. This is a set cost for this analysis, regardless of what plan we come up with for which way we go forward. It's still going to cost this for the analysis.
I still want you to be as informed as we can. So the best assurance I can give you is I'm not going to roll out a CIP without a rate review. that's when we'll need to make those decisions, because council would have to approve an amendment to our facilities plan, similar to what we did when we adopted in 16. That's still a council action that would have to be taken in the future. The rate review and forecast would have to be included in that submittal to ecology. That's a requirement that we would have to meet no matter what. So I'll make sure that we get these things lined up so that it all makes sense.
Thank you.
Just on the last thing you said, ecology requires a third party to do a rate review before we can submit this for the water reclamation facility. Is that what you're saying?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
It's in my practice in the past, just for clarity and more of a forthright approach, to have a third party come in similar to an auditor, to come in and look at your books, to look at how you are actually spending your funding and your capital improvement outlays. FCS is one of probably 2 consultants in the state who specialize in utility rate reviews and forecasting like this. And I trust the quality of their work. It is not my area of full expertise, so just to add, I like to have trust and transparency with our ratepayers. And so having someone come in, do that review for us and help us present that information from their findings, I think is valuable to stay honorable and make sure that folks can trust in utilities management and effective financial.
That's why you're suggesting a third party review instead of an individual or in-house review, correct?
That's my preference. I would say it's a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
And that was kind of my question as well, was how many groups do this, or how many businesses do these reviews? And it looks like, it sounds of it, just the 2?
There's only 2 that I've worked with. There's got to be less than a half dozen in total. 8.
And $30,000 is the going rate for that?
I think this is a little high because I had them include some costs for potential meetings or additional meetings if there was follow-up with study sessions with council. I don't think we'll attain that, so about $5,000 or $6,000 of this is potentially extra time that we may or may not need, including time with staff. And I would rather have it in the budget should council want it. Their offices are out of Bellevue, so it is a cost to bring them out to speak with the council if there are detailed questions that I can't answer, but as always, I'll do my best to bring that information at the lowest cost. If it's something that I can bring the council to present, I'll be happy to do. But I just want to be prepared for that, because this is a hot topic when you're talking about people's utility bills, and I want them to be able to talk to the people who were involved in that analysis and that process. Should the public want to talk to them as well, I think that's important. Make sure that we have some value in there. Member Cole?
Is this something, and not saying that we should, is this something we could do, and could we do an in-house review? Could like the finance department review the records and see where the numbers are going? Like, do we have the ability to do it in-house? Not saying we should, just asking if we have the ability.
Well, we will provide the data. So like Heidi McDonald, our finance director, and I will culminate the last 2 years of operating expenses. We'll bring forward all of our capital expenses over the last 2 to 3 years, plugging that into the financial model, and I have a copy of it. I would not trust myself to try to run it because there's a lot of moving parts that really a financial analyst would be savvy enough to understand how that works within the model. It's a very, very large, elaborate Excel spreadsheet that takes in factors, everything from inflation, growth projections, capital cost, CPI, average benefit cost increases per year. So there's a lot of variables that their expertise is necessary in order to make sure that analysis is solid and it's reliable.
We don't have the ability to do it in-house.
Well, I'll give you an example. The stormwater rates, when we did those in 2016, we did do that in-house, and it was a very elaborate process. But those were set dollar amounts per parcel, so the evaluation of a number of accounts, things like that, versus our operating costs and long-term capital. That's an extensive process and several hundred man hours in-house to do that.
But we do have the ability to do it in-house.
I would not say that we have the expertise to do it. Ability?
Yes or no? Just yes or
If you want to
no.
give me a challenge, certainly I'll take on any challenge.
Okay, so I just yes or no. Can we do it in-house or not? And if you don't think we can, just say no. I don't think we can.
I personally would not feel comfortable performing this.
Okay, thank you.
Is this something that we should have put out for public bid?
FCS is a vendor that is off of the MSRC roster, so we did evaluate the other alternatives. So I did basically an RFQ process using roster. It's below the dollar threshold, and for professional services, very broad threshold for how much we can utilize the MSRC roster. So that's that
So
evaluation.
it was under the dollar amount that triggers a requirement to put out for public bid?
For professional services, there isn't. My procurement policies, there's a limit where I don't feel comfortable just looking at qualifications without interviewing. So we use that tool just so that we, especially if it's a specialty market like this where we know there's not a lot of vendors, we would rather direct solicit the information off of MSRC because we can get a pretty good characterization of the team that would be involved in that. And we're allowed to select that and accordingly because they advertise twice a year. People submit their qualifications, so we have that like most small cities.
Another question down here, do we? Go.
I have a question. I'm just curious that you mentioned that this company that wants to charge us 30 grand to input some information that they're going to get from us into their spreadsheet to give us back information. How much is this Excel spreadsheet that you're talking about? Couldn't we just purchase that and enter the information ourselves? I mean, 30 grand, you're asking us to ask our community or let our community know, hey, we're going to spend 30 grand of your money to do a study to see how much we need to raise your rates. That just, I mean, I'm telling you from someone who lives in this community, that's outrageous. I mean, and here I'm sitting and listening to this and you're saying, well, this is something we don't really need to do it right now. We just want to kind of do that and it's not necessarily going to cost this much, but we just want to make sure it's in there. It sounds like you think that our community's got a lot of folks with just a lot of disposable income that really aren't concerned about it. And I'm sitting here patiently, and it's just I'm getting more and more frustrated with this attitude that it's okay that we spend another 30 grand on another study, because JCI decided that, not that they decided, but they sold us a bill of goods, and now here we are. But what it does sound like is we have moved forward and taken care of our initial problem, and that's fantastic. But I think that we need to tap the brakes here a little bit and figure out what exactly we're doing before we go to letting the community know we're going to spend another 30 grand to figure out how much we need to charge you.
Question.
I don't know that there was. I just think
More of a statement.
I think I need to express that.
I move to table this till the next city council meeting after, what is it, after first study session in October, so the first meeting in October.
Postpone, you mean?
Not
table.
Postpone, means we don't get back to it.
Postpone.
Postpone, thank you, stand corrected.
Second.
Any other discussion, or is that acceptable to this? All in favor?
Aye.
The more time to build, the better. Thank you. Story for that.
Information.
We're going to go back up to the new business. Grant was able to easily fix the issue that was before us.
Our terrific IT team dialing in.
Plug it in? They have to plug it in.
Always jiggle the cord.
Yeah.
That's the first thing to check.
This is an important issue before the council tonight, ordinance 1054, annexing certain property into the city limits. Grant to present.
Thank you. Back in late August, the City Council authorized Debbie Foreman to circulate an annexation petition. If you recall, her property is part of a little peninsula between Grove Road and that's surrounded on three sides by existing. And she very much wanted to join the city. Her request was for 5 lots immediately adjacent to Grove Road, including our own property. The council asked that we take a look at the bigger area to try to get more support for bringing it all in. We made a reasonable effort to do that. We didn't get very far. So she's come back with the petition for just the original request of those 5 lots alone. As you recall, all the properties are already served by city water, so there's no impact to potential water rights situation or additional connection. At this point, we've got a valid petition for annexation and recommend that you adopt ordinance 1054.
And I noticed on the map that I saw water hookups, but I didn't notice all of them had sewer hookups.
Yeah, that's correct. That's a little more hit and miss over there. In the city and actually in the county area too, we would require them to connect to sewer only if the septic system failed. and the line was available to serve. And that's a health regulation in both the state health code and the city health code.
So there would be no requirement to hook up to the city sewer at this point?
Sorry?
So there would be no requirement to hook up to city sewer?
No requirements. It would be required if and when the system failed, and it's a major failure, not just a broken pump or something.
Are there,
Without annexation. That's correct, without annexation, just as they are now.
is there any cost to those residents or to the city for this annexation process?
The city obtains additional property tax revenue as the property moves into the city. We also would provide services out there. Typically, that's police service, which honestly within the urban growth area we do anyway. Actually, it's a slight benefit to the property owner because living in the city is slightly less expensive as far as property taxes and other taxes in the county.
Thank you.
Well, I think we talked about it, and it sounds like a kind of a everybody wins situation for us. And with that being said, I move we adopt ordinance number 1054, annexing certain property to the city of Yelm, Washington.
Second.
Further discussion? Councilmember Cole.
I did notice that there was a significant effort, it said, to try to reach out. What was the response from other residents? Do we know, like, just get off my lawn or what?
Pretty much.
Okay. I just wanted to get the feedback there. Okay. We're good now. That's all I had. Just wondering how the other residents responded.
Anyone else? Motion before the council, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There's a unanimous vote. And that, after some paperwork, welcome to the city.
Welcome to the city.
Thank you, Council.
That's awesome. Well, that's a good piece of business to end our new business on. I'm glad we did it that way. We don't have any old business, and so to department updates. Anybody need to stretch your legs, get a drink of water, use the restroom or anything before Michael starts? Oh, you don't deserve that, I'm sorry. I've missed you. You haven't been here.
I just have 20 minutes of speaking points and then a PowerPoint slide.
Okay, good.
I'll keep this quick.
Say that every time.
He does.
I'm getting faster. I mean, almost to the point of a couple times, right, EJ? No updates. I mean, that's as fast as I can get.
You were in surgery.
Details. So just to update everyone and also for folks watching on TV, so we have an accounting assistant position open. Right now we have one internal applicant. We have so far 8 as of 10 minutes ago, 8 external applicants. I can't remember when that closes, but you remember the details of when it's closed? I think it's open till filled, but anyway, more applicants, the more opportunity we have to get the best candidate. So please share the word with anyone that you know. We've done a great job of hiring local people lately, and it would be neat to find someone here from the community that wants to work with the city and has those skill sets to bring to us. Update on water rights. I know that's second to the water reclamation facility, probably the biggest issue for the future of our community. We're looking to make application to the Department of Ecology later this year. I went down and recently presented on behalf of Grant and Chad the information of kind of the latest update of our plan, our next steps and timing. The committee, to be candid, really wanted to get into the details, and as I updated it, my last department update, we didn't want to get into the details with them because frankly we wanted to keep our powder dry, make sure that the thoroughness of our application was reviewed, not by all the constituents and the stakeholders in the room, but by ecology. Let ecology do their job, and then let that feedback be provided back to the committee, the joint task force. So I did happen to, you would appreciate this, Councilmember DePinto, I had a pre-conversation with the capital budget chair and said, hey, we need money for our water reclamation facility. Our conversation went so good that as my opening remarks started off with, hi, my name is, he said, and we will not be accepting legislative asks now, Michael Green. The good thing is I made my point the first time, and then we worked back to, we still need money because our presentation was on the needs for the improving of the water reclamation facility. So message received, any of you that can help reinforce those messages. We'll also be reviewing, I'll have a draft legislative agenda that we will have come up with, mayor management team, to recommend modifying, very minor modifications because it's a short legislative year. But we'll be sending that draft out to you and you'll discuss that and consider and approve that at a future meeting. Also, just a FYI, we have a health and wellness fair on Thursday. All the city buildings will be closed from 11 to 2 p.m. So we've put that out on flyers, we'll put it out on social media, but wanted you all to know, A, so you can tell folks, B, in case you come here and you find the building closed, that's why, and C, we hope as employees you would join us and over and partake in that. So, more to come on that. The last couple of things here, just wanted to highlight vacancies on boards and commissions as we try to invite people in to be part of the positive things that are happening. We have a new application for the Yelm Arts Commission, that's not accurate. We actually have a old application form that we updated to include the Yelm Arts Commission, and we received 2 applications so far. There's many more that we can take. I don't think that you all put a limit on that, but we'd like to have more than 2. So encourage people to apply for the Yelm Arts Commission. The Yelm Historic Preservation Commission has 1 vacancy. I'll slow down as I see some of you are writing. And the Tree Advisory Board has 4 vacancies, one of which includes one from the Yelm Community Schools. And so we've reached out to Brian Wharton, but if there's any other of you that used to have connections with the schools or the school district, maybe you could reach out to them. There are no gaming representatives, so sorry, can't help us, but anyway, from your past life. And then I just want to look ahead to future council meetings. As you heard from Chad, we're going to talk about the water reclamation facility and that big picture, next steps. You know, where are we going? What's the time frame? I know the Public Works Committee, at least I understand you got a little bit of a briefing from that last week. But we need to get that to the whole council and that path forward, because there's a lot of intricacies to that. We'll also be, as a reminder for this upcoming study session, that's when we have the placeholder for listening to your ideas about performance measures and a community survey discussion. The Finance Committee has kicked this around and they kind of came up with 3 performance measures. Is it on track and on time? Is it on budget? There's a third, I can't remember what it is. But anyway, they had some pretty simple, concrete ones to start off the conversation. It'd just be good for all of you to go, okay, are there other things that we should be missing as we look to incorporate performance measures and metrics into not only our reporting back to you on a regular basis, but most importantly to the budget process. Also at that meeting, we'll have a conversation, and really it's you all listening to, we have some options for you to consider about a community survey, but I understand that that's a desire for several of you, especially the Finance Committee. So we'll have some options of everything from SurveyMonkey to a very extensive survey that others do, and we'll push that out to you, and then we want to hear your ideas for what are the things that you really want to ask and incorporate, which will help give us some guidance to come back with a more formal option. So that'll be next study session. Also, there's going to be some new initiatives or questions that the Yelm Parks Advisory Committee is recommending, and we'll have those teed up for you just for conversation at this point to see if you want it on a future agenda item down the pipeline. Also, Councilmember Carmody has a budget process that I've talked to you about. I've looked at that with her, looked at it with the Finance Committee. That will be coming up on October 8th for first reading and first review. I'd like to just circle with you just to make sure it meets those nuances, but we'll be proposing that to you as a resolution. You can act on it at that point. You could act on it on the next night, but you'll see it formally on the 8th. We'll also talk about police department reorganization, and then really consistent with that biennial budget that you've adopted, budget calendar, and then this new budget process, which really affirms and fine-tunes the existing process and calendar that we had on an annual level, except it moves it to a biennial level. Consistent with the budget you've adopted, adds in strategic planning and performance measures and some other good things. But consistent with all of those decisions that you've made, November through December will include budget conversations to look at what are the budget to actuals of where we're at in this biennial process, any adjustments and tweaks that need to be made based on new information, new data, new revenues that didn't hit targets. We'll be sharing that all with you. And then possibly, depending on if the forecast is positive and there's extra money, then we would consider new additional asks. It's just too premature for us at this point to say, hey, council, start bringing forth any ideas that you didn't come up with at the last. Right now, we're looking at let's just, evaluate what the budget was that was adopted, look at that 2-year horizon and say, are we on track, are we off track, and do we have to make any formal adjustments? And if there is extra money, then we can look at amending that, essentially that 2020 process. But right now, it's just making sure we get it right and get everything accounted for as we end that year. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Councilmember Cole.
I noticed that we were live streaming on YouTube for the homeless task force, and now I believe our council meetings are going to be live streamed on YouTube. Is that correct? When was this decided? Just trying to figure out what's going on.
When Grant found out that it was possible and it was less clunky than the AV Capture All system that I know you all love near and dear to your hearts, as soon as Grant found that there was a better way to do everything that we were doing with the technology, he did it immediately. So, yeah. I would love to say that he actually went through a formal process and asked for permission and everything else. He just said, oh my God, this is so much better than what we've been doing. We need to do this. So, good job.
There's some truth to that.
Okay. It just rings a bell. I just remember something about 1.5 years ago when I elected about live streaming YouTube, so I was just wondering if someone finally picked up on it or... I was just wondering, so.
That's exactly.
Okay, I just remember like, why aren't we live streaming to YouTube? And then...
Correct.
Any other questions, Council?
Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Michael. Before we move on, anything from Public Works, like how we've moved some people around in the water, or wastewater treatment?
Yes, certainly. We promoted a couple of individuals in the last week. We have Jeremy Campo, who is one of our current operator twos at the WRF, has been promoted to lead operator, so he will be our lead plant operator going forward. We also promoted John Ivy, a longtime employee of the city. He's almost got 20 years, I think, with us now. Years with us. We'll be moving up to, these are both effective October 1st, he'll be moving up to the water lead operator. So he will also be spearheading the restart up of our Southwest Well 1A in the week of October. So, good movement. We also have a new hire. I will bring him to the next council meeting, probably not the study session. Joseph Richards is a seasonal employee that has replaced a vacancy at the water reclamation facility. He will be hired into that position, moving into that role October 1st. So I will bring him to council. Meet him. Very good young man. I think he's a very positive asset.
A great reflection on our seasonal employee program, because it gives us that opportunity to take a sneak peek at what they're going to be like and then make offers to people if an opportunity arises, and it did in this case. It's a great hire.
And just a little backstory, he actually came to us wanting to volunteer, but we did have an opening. His timing was excellent to become a seasonal, but it's very good glimpse into how involved he wants to be in that industry, that he was willing to basically give us a full year as a volunteer for free. But it worked out that he's accelerating his learning, and I thought we could wait 8 months, but the workload's there for us. So
I love your wastewater if you want to volunteer for the sewage treatment plant. Grant, updates?
Yeah, if I may, to kind of build on your comments about the room. The timing of it is all really getting into this room. The old council chamber / courtroom was put together 10 years ago. It was a very mechanical electric system, if you will. So all the switching, the cameras, it was all mechanical and electronic. It wasn't digital. And that made it very difficult to use some of the newer streaming technology. What we're doing over there now, so back up, my IT guys did an amazing job with this room for a very reasonable price. So the cameras, high definition, we're able to basically do some production with the camera systems now. So Andrew's back there switching things around, and we'll get better at that as we learn the software and the new system. The microphone system was about a quarter of the cost of recreating the mics in the podium, which didn't pick up anybody when they're leaning back. So that was a super easy. It's not something we can do in court because it's not a 4-channel system. Courts require. So So now that we've got all the cool stuff over here, we're going back into the courtroom. And for a couple of years now, the council's been budgeting for an upgrade to the courtroom, the live video arraignment. So now that you're out of there, we're able to do that. So we've already started that process, and the guys are putting the package together to connect up with the Nisqually jail and not have to transfer prisoners back and forth for their court dates. So really, truly is a win-win in the technology that we're able to do.
I think the YouTube thing is huge because now everybody can, it's so easy for someone to pull up their phone and access versus the AV system, which you can't, your phone could not pull it up. So this is, yeah, it's a great system, so kudos.
So we did it again as soon as the technology went digital, which allows all.
All right. Councilmember Curry?
Well, I went to the homeless task force. It was amazing. There were more people there than I think I've ever seen in that building. And I won't steal your guys' thunder from that one. I was at the ribbon cutting for the new turf at the high school. And kudos to Michael and the mayor. Being out there getting your little coin, memory coin. And the Southeast Thurston Fire Authority, we had a site planning meeting for the new building out at Lawrence Lake this past week. Few changes in it, not much. It'll be a nice facility for the firefighters. And if you haven't seen Mamma Mia, go see it. It's excellent. That's it.
At the Intercity Transit meeting, we held our joint meeting, our yearly joint meeting with the Community Advisory Committee, which is comprised of 20, maybe 30 odd citizens from around Thurston County. And they advise the advisory board. So we had our joint meeting, we went over all of our long range goals. And that was really informative for them because they hadn't seen a lot of the stuff that the board sees. At the Nisqually River Council, we had a presentation from the YMCA that they have bought 500 acres between LB and Mineral, and they're looking to buy the additional acreage to build up to the full 2,100 acres that property is, and they're putting up an entire youth facility there. It's going to be fantastic. They're really excited. The first year is just going to be wildlife or wild wilderness camping while they get all of their infrastructure in place, but they're really excited about it, and it's going to be offering a lot of opportunities for a lot of kids. We also had a seminar on how to count bats at Northwest Trek. And apparently a bat can eat 2,000 mosquitoes a night, which I did not know. The Homelessness Task Force, obviously we had our listening session on September 8th, where the task force met as the 7 of us, and we got to listen to the citizens voice their concerns to us. It was very informative. We had a lot of people there, like EJ said, there were probably over 200. But I'd like people to keep in mind that we do have over 4,200 registered voters in Yelm. So while there were a lot of people, it was not a majority of people. We are having a town hall on October 9th at, was it 6:30?
6:30.
6:30 to hear from the Washington DSHS and Thurston County as to what services are available that they provide through them so that, Yelm wouldn't have to recreate the wheel. On October 15th at 6:30 is the next actual homelessness task force meeting. We have not yet set an agenda. As far as the Community and Economic Development Committee meeting, we rescheduled that. We're going to be meeting on the first Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. The Finance Committee meeting was canceled. I'm going to be meeting with Michael to discuss the budget calendar. Our next meeting is in October. That's about all I have.
I did get to attend the ribbon cutting / football game, which was awesome. That turf looks amazing. I can't wait for my team to play on it, so that's exciting. The middle school gets to play on it for one game. Besides that, not a whole lot to report. Obviously rescheduled the meeting for the Economic Development Council, and we have general government coming up next week, the week after next, I believe. Or how the dates fall. That is all.
2 weeks ago, I attended the Emergency Management Board meeting, and some good information. Mainly, the key takeaway is it's Emergency Preparedness Month, and there's Emergency Preparedness Expo at Peter G. Schmidt on the 28th. They'll have, they'll have vendors. You can learn how to use a fire extinguisher, all kinds of cool stuff there, and it's free. So everybody should go and check that out. And then tomorrow is my Thurston County Economic Development Board meeting. And that's it.
Can I go?
Yeah, you can go for me.
I attended the a labor negotiation meeting with TCOM, kind of a pre-meeting to go through negotiations with the labor unions for the switchboard operators. And I also attended a event over at the community center for the Thurston County K-9 unit fundraiser. And I was fortunate enough to get to call bingo over there, and I think they did pretty well for those K-9 units. And the officers gave a pretty interesting demonstration and let us see what their animals are capable of. I attended a retreat for the Transportation Policy Board, and we discussed transportation improvement packages on many different levels, and how what we think will work, what we think won't, and we discussed those ideas and came up with somewhat of a tentative plan on moving forward. And what I got.
We appreciate you taking the time to go to that Transportation Policy Board meeting. Those discussions work their way up to the TRPC and the regional planning, and it's the voices that get heard are the ones that get action taken. So appreciate you taking the time on that. It's a long day. And it's 7 o'clock in the morning to your usual meetings.
That one wasn't at 7.
I know, they gave you an hour. Thanks, Tracy.
First of all, I want to say I watched Michael's testimony to the Joint Task Force, and I thought you did a great job representing the city on there and our needs. I attended for the first time actually coffee with the chief. I'm on the Public Safety Committee, but I've never attended a chat with the chief, but I did for the first time, and it was great turnout. Had a lot of folks that were really engaged and wanting to know a lot of different questions, not only with public safety, but since I was there, I could chat a little about the Homelessness Task Force, which brings in the Homelessness Task Force meeting, which I think was already covered pretty well. I just want to say one of the best parts of that meeting, though, I think, was just hearing people talk, hearing what their opinions are and views on it. I won't go into too much what they said, but you can watch the YouTube video that it was streamed live on and recorded on. Attended the steady meeting where Grant Beck did a good job presenting on the city, what we're up to, and some of our developments. And also in the Nisqually tribe and the Chehalis tribe were there as well to give good presentations on what they were doing economically. Public safety meeting was canceled today. I had a meeting with Hanford McLeod and Willie Frank III over in the Nisqually tribe earlier this week, and we talked about the homelessness issue for them, and what they had a task force actually that concluded last year, and they explained what they were doing, some of the issues that they faced, and some of the solutions they had. Which, just briefly, one of the issues they had was they had homeless camping on the sides of the road or right near the side of the road, and so they actually, a lot of that's just reservation, their property. So they ended up just chopping down a lot of those trees and clearing out some of the brush, so they couldn't camp out there. And while that doesn't apply directly to Yelm, because a lot of the camps that are in Yelm are on private property, it did give a different insight kind of to what they were doing, some of their solutions, which might be a little bit different, but maybe we could apply some to ours as well. Still working on a couple ordinances / programs. The general committee can expect to hear from the mailbox program, the secure mailbox program, and I'll be ready for your next general committee meeting. Talked with their city council member from CTAC and how they implemented it and some of their issues, some of their problems, and the mailboxes they recommended. I want to work a little bit more on the B&O tax revisions and also the fireworks ordinances. Hearing a lot of different views on the fireworks ordinance from people that want a complete ban, to people that want to reduce it to a few days, and some people that don't want to touch it all. And I get the perspectives on each of them. Nino was one of the cities near us in South Thurston that recently narrowed their days. And I've chatted with Councilman John O'Callanan, who was kind of opposed to it. He voted against the ordinance. So I got his perspective a little bit. I want to meet again with him, see what challenges they face, and also the mayor, who was a proponent of it as well. So to get kind of both sides before I bring it to the council. And lastly, I toured the Boys and Girls Club when they opened up, and they were packed. They're going to ask for some more volunteers here pretty soon, but they're almost at capacity over there. So I'm really happy how successful it is, and great program. That's it.
All righty.
I attended the Public Works meeting with Chad and Tracy, but it was just a complex look at all the moving parts. I can't even describe what we talked about, but we will be going forward with looking at everything at our study session, I'm sure. But it was a very good meeting. I also attended the Homeless Task Force, and Molly and Joe did a great job. There was great participation from the public, and it literally was standing room only because I was standing there with my sore knee, and it really hurt. So, and it was great to see the public making use of that building. Just fantastic. And the other thing was the Thurston Thrives meeting that I went to. This was, we had a presentation which was a collaboration. In 2018, this group, Hope Thurston County, collaborated with this Dr. Chan Hellman from the University of Oklahoma, and he partnered and established a study and an analysis of a Hope score for Thurston County. And at first I thought, well, what do you mean hope? Is it just like, well, being happy, or what does that mean? But they're saying that hope is the single best predicator of a person's ability to thrive and flourish. People that are more productive at work, they're higher achievers, have academic performance, healthier, and have lower rates of depression and PTSD. So this gentleman developed this, and for the fun facts of our area, Thurston County has a moderately high hope score for individuals, and that produces just their individual well-being. And then there's a collective hope score for a community, which predicts social action and is really related to trust in leadership. So we have a higher collective hope score than individual hope score. And individuals' hope score in Thurston County, 49.3%. And of the 12 zip codes in Thurston County, ours, 98597, had the highest hope score of 58%. And what does this all mean? The research is focused on the psychological strength of helping children and adults overcome trauma and adversity. And I attended the meeting with Brian Wharton, our school, and they're using this system to really help in the school system. And in the meeting, they were looking for community partners. So that's what I about hope.
You have high hopes. Good job. Thank you. So a few things. First off, I just want to have to start off with the sadness that while we were commemorating the events of 9/11 on Patriot Day, and there were a couple of things that went on in town, we're also learning of the death of another 1st Special Forces Sergeant Griffin, who his kids actually go to school here in Yelm, in the Ridgeline and at the high school. We will have been working with the family contact to support the family as best we can, and with the schools, and we will be putting up one of our military banners in his honor with a gold star. Take that task on, and just be thoughts with the family. We are a military community, and this happens from time to time. We wish it didn't, but it did, and our thoughts are with Griffin family at this time. I was, some of these are a little out of order, but on the 16th and 17th, I was able to attend the Association of Washington Cities Mayors Conference. So there was 2 days. One was the Mayors Exchange, where mayors come together and talk about the issues that face their cities. And I always come away from that exchange loving Yelm even more, because we don't have the problems that a lot of the other cities have been dealing with. And the second day was Mayor as CEO, and that was gave some great perspectives on the mayor's role in human relations and labor management. So that was a good session to attend as well. one of the takeaways that I thought was interesting, in the middle of the state, and I had another mayor come up and says, "You're the mayor of Yelm?" And, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Yeah, we drive to Yelm just so we can ride our bicycles on that trail. So, good job." And I'm like, "Okay, well, thank you." It was done before we got here, but, you know, we'll take the credit for it. And but he was very excited in the thought of us taking that trail and extending it out further. It's really proved to be an attraction that people appreciate. Echo the comment that at the study meeting, appreciate them coming to Yelm. And Grant did a nice job presenting, as did Lynn from the chamber. And I was really glad to see our tribal partners there as well. There's one weekend left of Mamma Mia, and it is a fabulous show. It is so much fun. I don't know, is it sold out already?
No, there's just a little window of tickets available.
Okay. It's like Friday, Saturday evenings, and then Sunday afternoon, I believe, coming up. This is last weekend. It's definitely worth your time. They did a great job with that. Love to see that kind of art in our area. 21st was Thank a Cop Day, and I did. Went to the homecoming event at the high school, their assembly. That is craziness. I'd forgotten how loud and warm, 600 kids are in a high school gymnasium, all going at full energy. And but it was really cool. Their theme this year is Hometown Homecoming, because they recognize, as we do, how many young graduates have come back or never left when Yelm has invited them back. We have so many more businesses opening up. We had 2 more businesses open up this weekend, or this last week. Better Properties management team and Bertolio's just opened up in the building down by Rhonda's. And both comments to me were how easy it was to work with the city and opening up a business. And that's exactly what we want to hear from those businesses. Pretty cool. The wellness fair that's coming up on this Thursday, really important. You are all members of our family as well, and you are most welcome and encouraged to come to the wellness fair. There's lots of vendors, there's information, there's food. You can also get your shots. So, yes, sir.
Are we doing a weight loss challenge this year?
We did the weight loss challenge ending in no weight loss for me whatsoever, but I did not win. But we will have one every year. We also have a new challenge coming up that Karen will send out messages on. It has to do with exercise, and everybody can participate. And in fact, the more of us who participate in the city, the closer we get to that, achieving that mark that then allows us to become a well city, which then reduces our premium on our health benefits by 2%, which is like real money. So that's important. At the Wellness Fair, just a minor correction for those who are listening, City Hall, Public Works, Court will all be closed from 11:45 to 1:15, allowing our on-duty personnel to come over and take advantage of those vendors and get their shots and stuff, and then come back and open up their offices. And those have been posted on their doors. Tomorrow morning, if you really want to get up an early start, we partner with Together, the group that's providing services to kids in our schools in a way that the schools can't do it themselves. They partner with them. I've worked with their program for their mentoring group and a couple of other things, and our Rotary has donated food to their program. Their fundraiser and annual meeting happens tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. at Hotel RL. So if you just want to go out and get some breakfast uptown, that's what they're doing tomorrow. And
Hotel RL.
It used to be the Red Lion,
Which is
which used to be the Evergreen. Courthouse. By the courthouse.
Westwater Inn.
Yes.
Got it.
You go back far enough.
The Greenwood. Got it.
They rebranded themselves Hotel RL, which what they do. Okay, that's my update. Thank you.
Adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned.